Greetings, my little guzzlers. It's sort of summertime. Apparently, according to me, I'm not going to struggle. Meteorologically, 1st of June was start of summer, but apparently we're still actually in spring. Fucking fly, bastard! I just got rid of one of them. Anyway, we're going to have a sort of salad, and it's a really simple one. It's beetroot and orange and a couple of herbs. So I think I worked out there's like 5 ingredients in this: orange, beetroot, some cider vinegar, red wine vinegar, white wine vinegar, up to you, olive oil, some tarragon, chives. That's it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. And if you count salt and pepper, 7, 8. So we're going to make a very simple, and this can be a light lunch, it can be a starter, or you can have it as a main meal if you want, but there's not an awful lot in it for a main meal. A beet salad with orange, chive and tarragon. Now, I tried to buy some beetroot, and the beetroot, I don't know whether it's not in season in England at the moment, but the only beetroot I could buy, I bet one of these little bastards falls off now, is all pre-cooked. So I bought some pre-cooked it. Now, I said to you this is like a starter or like a simple lunch. Because we're having it a bit more of a main, I'm doing a lot more. Just so there's a little bit more there, and that's all we're going to have tonight. Apart from some of this stuff. But if you were doing it normally, you would take a couple of medium-sized beetroot and we'd bake it. Because they're already done, we're not doing that stage. But I will include down in the description how to bake them and prepare them, so you're actually at the stage we're at now. All right. So while you're down there in the description looking at that, don't forget, like and subscribe. So, if you were having to bake them, the first thing you do is prep them and get them in the oven. And while that's doing it, we do our oranges. But obviously I don't have to worry about that. That bloody fly! Fucking kill it. So, we're going to make some orange supremes. Now, I don't know if that's really the real word for it. This comes from Stefan again on the French Cooking Academy. And he calls them supremes. So I assume that's what they are. Essentially, we're going to have orange slices, but we don't want any of the old skin or anything else in it. We just want the flesh. So get yourself a nice little sharp paring off. Okay. And a bowl to put the segments into. So the first thing we're going to do is make these supremes. Move back over here again so you can better see. So first thing we're going to do, just going to slice the top and bottom off. Okay, because well, I don't want that there. What am I doing with that? Chuck that in there. Now we want to peel it. So what we're going to do is just run our knife round the outside, trying to make sure we get all that outside peel off. Okay. So if we just peeled them like you would normally do with an orange, of course the actual segments still would have, the segments are in like a skin or whatever. We don't want that. We want to get rid of that. He sits there and says leaving some of that skin on there then. Now, did you realise that oranges, see, look, that's me not paying attention to what I'm doing. oranges, and what we got here is what we call a sweet orange. You do get bitter oranges. Okay, I've just left a little bit of the white stuff on there. Get rid of that. They're not actually a wild fruit. Okay, they're actually a domesticated thing. Now, I might move this back over here because it starts getting a bit messy now. And what I don't want to do is obviously get juice all over my oven because it's just been cleaned. Okay. So what? Did my camera just do something silly then when I weren't looking? I heard a click. Anyway, what we're now going to do is actually cut the segments out. Okay. So anyway, it's not a wild fruit. It's domesticated in East Asia. Oh, I need a drink. Essentially, part of China, northeastern India, that sort of region. Earliest mention of a sweet orange is in Chinese literature going back to 314 BC. So let's get supreme in these slices. Sliced down just inside that skin. So we end up with essentially just the flesh. Now there is a little bit of a knack to this, and obviously we don't want the pips that we got there. Okay, and while we do this, you can well end up, as you can see, that well, you might be able to see on my see that one there was being a bit naughty. You want to do it over the bowl because we want to keep the juice. Now see, I've got a little bit of white on there. I don't want that there. You're going to be wanting some orange juice, and we're going to use the natural orange juice that's coming out of this orange. Don't want that pip. Don't want that bit of white. Now, because of the quantity I'm making, I'm going to use 2 oranges. If you were going to do it the standard way, like I say, for this light thing, you would basically only need 1 orange. And you would split that between 2 of the beetroot. I'm trying to talk here and I'm not being very accurate in my cutting. So you might argue it's a little bit wasteful, all right? But at the end of the day, what you don't want is all that horrible skinny bit. Now, oh, and in there went a pip, you little shite. There's a little bit of white in there, but I think we can live with that. So, it was during the Arab, oh, another pip. I don't know where he got his oranges from, but when Stefan was doing this, didn't have any pips in it whatsoever. But there you go. Although he's French, and it's a French cooking academy, he actually lives in Australia. Oops, another pip there. Just trying to get that out. Oh, just got sprayed with orange juice. So it was the Arabs that introduced, well, not just this sweet orange, but the bitter orange, lemons, limes, into the, like, initially into the Iberian Peninsula. Another pip there. Oh, there's some pips in this one. It was the Arabs that introduced them. Oops, in there, you silly sod. And now I'll just put the white bit in there, I didn't want. So I'm down to my last segment, and I can see a bloody great pip in there. Look at that. And as a result, it started cultivating in Europe these oranges from about 10th century. Right, so that's the first one done. Okay, now I'm just going to do the second. So there you go. That's it all supremed. There's a little bit of white, a little bit of skin on there, but I'm going to live with that. Not an awful lot of juice, actually. He had a lot more juice coming out on his. Actually, the main reason I did it on this plastic one is for what's coming next, the beetroot. But anyway, that's our orange prepared. So I told you the Arabs introduced it into sort of Europe, if you like. But by 1646, the orange was well known throughout Europe. Louis XIV was particularly enamoured. Perhaps I should have filled my wine up first. With orange trees. And he built these great big grand oranges. Let me just get some of this out of there. In the Palace of Versailles. Better leave a bit for the wife. She made that's a proper size bottle of wine. So the wife said, "Oh, I saw a really nice Prosecco on Sainsbury's." And I thought, that's a bargain price. It's a bargain bloody price because, what size is that? That's less than half a bottle. So it's fuck off expensive if you bought the full thing. So she's gone that a little bit. Don't want to leave it. I'll leave a little bit. But anyway, I'm digressing. Louis XIV loved orange trees. So not only did he build these oranges, orangeries, so they could grow and cultivate orange trees and have oranges throughout the year. But he also had oranges put into silver tubs throughout all the palace. Every room you went to, there was orange trees in silver tubs. I didn't know this bit, but he had a finance minister. Fucking hell. Nicolas Fouquet. And he also, probably because he was sucking up the king or whatever, he had lots of orange trees. And when he sort of was disgraced a bit and he was condemned in 1664, not only did he, this is Louis XIV, confiscate most of it, well, he confiscated all of his estate, but he confiscated over 1,000 orange trees and said they're mine now. Right, so I've got to prepare my herbs. Before we do that, we're going to do the beetroot. Okay. Pardon me. That weren't me. That was the wife in the next room. So you need your beetroot, obviously cooked. And what we want to do is cut them up. It's up to you how you want to cut them up. You can cut them up into just slices, or you can cut them into chunks. Entirely up to you. Okay. We're going to try and present them in a sort of neatish format. But one of the reasons I'm using my gloves is because of the beetroot juice, and it will stain you. So at the moment I'm just chucking them as they are into that bowl. Okay, and what I'm thinking is, given the amount of orange juice I've got out of there, I might need to squeeze another orange, or at least half an orange, but we'll see. Actually, I think I'll leave that bit like that, cut that bit in half, leave that like that. So oranges, just step back a minute. were introduced into the Americas by the Spanish, because obviously by the time of the Spanish sort of invasion, if you like, of the Americas, oranges were well established in Europe. And interestingly, well, I thought it was, oranges were very important in California during the gold rush, because apparently one of the big problems was scurvy. And they realised how the oranges were really good at helping prevent that bloody flies back here again. Fucking shit. Very good at preventing scurvy, and the reason being is the oranges are very high in vitamin C. 100 grams of orange, the flesh that is, not the skin of it, provides up to 59% of your daily value, or your daily sort of requirement of oops, I forgot to slice that one that way then, of vitamin C. Right, I haven't finished my beetroot yet. I'm wondering whether perhaps I have got a little bit too much here. But the wife's just been in for the top up for the remaining bit of her Prosecco, and she said, saw the beetroot, and she said, oh, we're going to have red wheat tomorrow. I said, stop preempting what I'm going about to tell you. Because she's got a point there, but before she does, orange, where's the name come from? Well, actually, the word, I'm just thinking, I think no, bugger it, don't have to eat it all, do we? The word orange basically derives from a word, the Dravidian or something like that, language from South India, and it then became part of the Sanskrit language, Naranja. Definitely got too much beetroot here, but never mind. It then became, via Persia, apparently a European word. By then it became known as narang or naranj, and then from the Persian they derived an Arabic version, naranj, but it's spelt different, if you like. Well, it would have been written completely different because it's Arabic. But anyway, it wasn't until like about the 14th century it became a Middle English word via the French, pomme d'orange. And actually the name, the colour orange, is named after the fruit, which I suppose is not unsurprising. And it was in about 1512 in English, or England, that we have the first documented reference to orange, the colour. There you go, that's told you about orange. Now I've cut my beetroot up. And what I'm going to do, I am going to squeeze a bit more orange juice into there, given the amount of beetroot we've got. Okay, but before that, I'm just going to clean up, and I can get rid of them gloves. There you go, looks like I've got some blood in there. Told you the wife preempted stuff. I had another half an orange in there. And what we want to, oh, just, is that a pip in one of them slices? I think there is. I'm going to take about 4 tablespoons of that orange juice. Yeah, there's definitely a pip in that one. That's coming out. I'm just going to put that in there. Look at that one. Oh, can you see it? Oh, actually, I've just found another little bastard. Look. So the beetroot, sometimes known as the garden beet, sometimes known as red beet, because that's a red one. You get golden beet. There's a little bit of orange flesh gone in there, but I'm not that worried about that because it's obviously all going to be mixed together anyway. But anyway, they call it garden beet, dinner beet. A slightly different variety. You can get sugar beet. You'll have it down. But initially, beetroot or beets were grown for their leaves, which were known as beet greens. But by the time of the Romans, they were actually also growing it for the actual root bit, which is what we've got here. Now, I've got a tablespoon of oil. Well, I would have if I tipped all the bastard in there. Now, because I'm trying to keep the sort of amount of oil down, you probably want about 4 tablespoons in that amount of beetroot, but we're going to just stick with a bit less than that. But preferably try and get, if you're going to put it in there, try and at least get it in there. And then you want your vinegar. Now, I've got cider vinegar here. You want red wine vinegar, it's up to you. So I've got 1, 2, 3. Now this isn't all going to end up on your plate, okay? What we're going to do with that now is that is now going to sit and macerate, if you like, for about 15 minutes in the fridge. I'm just going to try and give it a little bit of a mix. I did have a bigger bowl out earlier and I thought, you're fucking idiot, it's far too big. In hindsight, it would have been perfect. So all I'm doing at the minute is I'm just making sure that beetroot is all coated. I'm just going to leave that there. I did get some on finger. So like I say, what we want to do now is just sit that in the fridge for about 15 minutes. And that gives me time to prepare our herbs. And also tell you a little bit more about beetroot. So I've already told you the Romans grew it for the roots as well. The remains of beetroot have been found in the Saqqara pyramids in Memphis, Egypt. They've been found in the Netherlands, in Europe, in Neolithic sites, and Roman sites in Germany. Hence the reason we know that, the reasons, well, not even reasons, but hence we know how they were used back in ancient times. Right, so I've got quite a large bunch here of chives. We just want to finely chop these. So the word beetroot, that as we call it today, derives essentially from sort of 2 words again. Beta or beta is an ancient Latin word for beetroot. However, there are some suggestions that it actually may be of Celtic origin. Now, if you were making the kind of quantities that I said to you to begin with for 2 people, you probably want about half to 1 tablespoon of chives, okay? But obviously we are making extra, so I think we'll use that amount. Now that's your, I might get my scraper out in a minute. rather than put it back on that plate. Now that's tarragon. We don't want all them stalks. Okay, so the laborious job of peeling off them, the leaves. Now tarragon, apparently, because I would know, wouldn't I? Nice and fragrant. I was quite surprised. I thought I'd probably struggle to get this, but Sainsbury's had it. Took me ages to find beetroot. Mainly because I was looking under the fruit and veg and didn't realise it was in little plastic packets already pre-done. But anyway, so beetroot, I was saying to you, it's a separate word, as it were, for the root. That is from Old English rot, basically from the Old Norse rot, for the root bit. So bet rot, or beetroot, beetroot. It's essentially these two words together to mean beetroot, or what we today think of as beetroot. Now what I'm going to do with this tarragon is, once I've pulled it off the stalks, we are in turn going to chop that up nice and fine. Okay, and that will be essentially all the prep we're doing. So I've dragged this out a bit, but it's a very, very simple dish. Okay, like I say, ideal as a nice little colourful starter, a nice nutritious starter. You got your vitamin C. So how is beetroot nutritious? Well, I might tell you in a minute when I've finished getting these leaves off. So I was saying to you, what's the benefit of beetroot? Well, back in the Middle Ages, beetroot was considered a medicinal plant or herb, and they said it was good for various conditions, but additionally it was also considered good for garlic breath. So it was sometimes nicknamed garlic breath, because it apparently neutralised this sort of smell of garlic if you've been eating garlic, that is. Don't know, might be right, don't know. So although it was used in the Middle Ages to treat lots of different ailments, whether it really sort of did anything, who knows. However, what they soon realised, one of the reasons I was wearing the gloves, is beetroot juice coloured things. It's actually a compound called betinin, and it is actually used today as a red food colourant. In fact, I've got some recipes that, if you've been paying attention, you know, like you've been liking my stuff and looking at some of my stuff, you'll have seen I've actually used beetroot powder, basically dried beetroot, as a colouring. And it was sometimes added to give a red colour to wine, but additionally you could actually ferment the beetroot to make wine. But anyway, I think we're just about at a stage now ready to start plating. Now Stefan says about using like a presentation ring. I've only got these cookie cutters. Ideally you want them deeper than this, so I'm not sure how well this is going to work, but essentially I mean, you could just chuck it on a plate, who cares, but trying to keep a little bit of decent presentation. He says about stacking it as such, trying to get a little bit of structure to it, and then it immediately does that to me. And without thinking, I go and pick that up. So I think this might be a little bit of a fail, to be honest. Yeah, see, it does it again. I'm not sure this is really going to work. Not if it keeps being a little shit like that. Obviously, if you chopped it up finer, it would work. No, there we go again. Oh, you little shit. I don't think it's worth bothering. Yeah, no, it ain't worth bothering. So what we're going to do is we're just going to put a little pile on the plate. Now, I've told you about beetroot. I think that's enough on that plate. Just going to have a little tidy up around the edges here, just to make it look a little bit more presentable. Get the other plate up here. So I told you about other varieties. Well, I went to get me wine then and just remembered I just drank it all. One of which was a mango wurzel, which I must admit I thought was a made-up word. I remember many, many, many years ago. I think it was a song by the Wurzels, if you know who they were, going on about wurzels or whatever. I just thought that was a made-up word. But apparently mango wurzels were a sort of form of beet. And there was a thing known as mango wurzel disease. And it was related to overeating beetroot. So I've got a little bit spare there, but I think I might leave that one there. And in World War One, because of the hardship and everything else, people were making lots of beetroot. Oh, not making lots of beetroot, but eating lots and lots of beetroot. And they were succumbing to what they called mango wurzel disease. Now, if I'd done this in a nice little neat circle, or probably a bit of overkill using this forceps, you can neatly arrange the orange segments on top. But to be honest, given this is like a bit of a mess here, probably a bit of overkill doing it this way. And actually, the amount of beetroot I've got here, I probably want a bit more orange, but anyway. But because a lot of people were eating just beetroot, because that was all they could grow, as it were, and they were encouraged to grow, they were getting this mango wurzel disease. Now, one of the drawbacks to eating a lot, going back to what the wife was saying, was the fact that you could end up, by the way, there's not a lot of juice there. I could have probably squeezed that other orange half. But what we're going to do is I'm just going to drizzle some of that orange over there. Definitely need a bit more orange with that quantity of beetroot. Okay. But one of the problems is, I told you about the colouring in it. But the other problem is that beetroots, as they grow, accumulate nitrate from the ground. And excessive nitrates are actually dangerous to health. So now I'm just going to sprinkle on. I mixed up that tarragon and that those chives. Okay. And we're just going to sprinkle that over that. That's the wife's one. It looks a bit neater. And we're also going to give it a little bit of salt. So the nitrates accumulate inside the beetroot, which is not good. Now we've got some black pepper, because excessive nitrates are a health problem. But on the other hand, nitrates also help reduce blood pressure. So getting the balance between excessive and adequate is quite good, because as long as you don't go too far, it's actually beneficial. Go too far and it's not. Right, so I've got a little bit left there. I've got half orange in there if I want some more orange juice. Got some more beetroot, got some salt and pepper, but let's taste it and then I'll tell you. Now, Stefan adds some zest of orange. I could do it, but I can't be asked. And also a little drizzle of olive oil, but we're trying to keep the amount of fat down, so we're not going to do that. Okay. That actually looks neatest. I'll go for this one. The wife can have that one. One of the drawbacks to eating too much beetroot so I'm getting the beetroot flavour through, a little bit of the orange, let's do a bit of orange and beetroot. That's really nice. Together, you haven't got the lemon, you got the sweetness of that sweet orange, not bitter orange, sweet orange. And then the texture of the beetroot and that sort of earthy-ish flavour. But the thing is, tomorrow morning, with this amount of beetroot, bettoning is not broken down by our bodies. So quite what happens is people get up in the morning and have a pee, and their urine is red, or got red in it, and they go, oh my God, there's blood in my urine. I'm told to watch out for that. Get down that doctor's, get down that A&E. But it's not blood, it's the excreted bettoning. And also, we're told, watch out for your blood in your stools, because that can be a sign of something dodgy. But if you've had a lot of beetroot, it's simply the colouring. So there you go, your nice simple beetroot and orange with chive and tarragon simple salad.